I can never quite get over the fact that every time everyone speaks into a microphone, nothing happens.
Nothing happens?
Yeah, I'm still...
Yeah, it's a little weird.
It's a scam. Yeah, exactly. There's somebody who sells microphones in this hall somewhere.
So I think I was going to ask this, and it seems related. So we talked a bit about this in the car ride, but Jordan Peterson seems to think that the only way to revitalize Western cultures is to rescue the substrate, which is the Judeo-Christian religious tradition, and in particular, in his case, Christianity. And so he's giving this biblical lecture series because he thinks that really, like, the reason people can talk about interest rates, but they can't talk about the things that really matter, is that they've become disconnected from the source.
Right.
And so, and it seems to me that you and he, to some degree, converge on that point. That is the argument that Christianity itself, religious traditions, are critical in order for the West to believe in itself. And as we become more secularized, what you're describing is a sort of inevitable byproduct of that. Others, like Sam Harris, have argued that actually Western liberal values can thrive in the absence of Christianity.
Yes. I address this in this chapter, the feeling that the story has run out, where I give an admittedly a swift run-through of what I think the situation of faith now is, which is that you can regret it or you can not regret it, but it's happened. The process of biblical scholarship in 19th century Germany is not going to be disappeared away, or at least not for the foreseeable future. You can't unlearn what you've learned. We're not going to revoke Darwinism. God knows there will be some people who will continue to try. But we are where we are because of what we know. And as I say, you can lament it or not, but that's our fate of where we are. And the odd, to your question, the odd position of where we find ourselves in Europe, at any rate, is that, yes, we end up in this Nietzschean problem we were discussing earlier, that where we still have a lot of the structure of the Christian faith and the Judeo-Christian religion, but without the answers that it provides. So that we have all of the thing of guilt, but there is no way to alleviate guilt. There is no redemption. There is only the guilt. And this is just one example. Another, which I've given the book, is this way in which we still dream Christian dreams. I mean, my view, I explain why in the book, but is that the form is human rights, which is the sort of nearest we've come to a post-war religion. Well, until the intersectionalists came along and came up with a new weird religion. The nearest we've come to really was human rights. But human rights is so obviously a product of post-Christian thought that it's. I mean, people say to me all the time wherever I go in the way, it's obvious that, human rights are right. And you think, do you have any idea the number of places in the world where human rights look very unright? So I think this is just a situation that we're in, and I don't know the way out. I know I can think of some of them, but I think that the people who say, well, as a result, we must re-evangelize or whatever. It's noticeable, by the way, that the people who do that tend not to be believers and think other people have to do the believing. Which isn't, by the way, such a tautological position or hypocritical position, because you can believe in belief without being able to believe yourself.
And just a more of a comparative point, do you think, since we were talking about, different cultural systems, right? And do you think in countries, say Muslim majority countries, even the countries that are to a great extent secular, they differ largely in this notion where the substructure of, say, Islamic thought or Islamic philosophy continues to survive, and it continues to answer certain questions in ways different than in the West? Because it seems to me that the strict secularism, to the point where the substrate, where God is killed, righteousness in the Nietzschean sense. It creates problems. While in the Islamic, in Muslim majority communities and being from one, I know that you can be totally secular, but there is, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim in a Muslim majority country, it doesn't really matter. But there is and in this sense, it's not really religious in the typical sense, but it is almost as if you're aware of the basic questions that hold your society together, or the basic answers that hold your society.
You know where you'd go in a crisis.
Sure.
As I say, I mean, it's impossible to diagnose where that goes, because one of the most obvious things is to return to the source, because you need something. I have various Europeans I quote in the book who do that for precisely that reason, who are willing to return to faith, not because they particularly believe, but because they think it might be the only answer to the political and existential problems they see coming. But